This is my heartbeat, heartbeat. Got a soul on fire that burns inside me, inside me. Now I got love of heaven running through my veins like dynamite that you can't contain. My heartbeat, yeah. Okay, so this is the beginning of me doing what I've wanted to do for a long time, sharing my story of going through verbal abuse and surviving it until I can get out. I try my hardest not to compare my situation to other people because it's different. It's always going to be different. I don't go through verbal abuse every day anymore because of some changes that I've made. I started making the changes in effort to protect myself and my children. And because I have seen the pain of divorce traumatize the lives of children. And I saw that pain growing up as a child, and I saw that pain in my husband's first 3 children. As a matter of fact, the pain is still there. They're still suffering from it. I met my husband well after he had had his divorce. I was not the cause of his divorce. I didn't even know him at that time. I met him working at the same company is how I met him. And I was open at that time of my life of marrying someone with children because I had been told that I couldn't have any. And I believed it, especially after the miscarriage I had. But that's another story for another time. Let me back up because I don't want to get too ahead of myself. I am a believer. I live for Jesus. Some of you may say Yeshua or Yahushua. And I don't believe that he wants us to be in abusive relationships. So many things happened in my marriage after we got married that put me in a position where separation or even divorce I couldn't do it financially. I'm closer to it now. I'm much closer to it now. But I was far away from it then. My husband and I were living, number one, in the beginning above our means. That's in the very beginning. And we were working it out, though. We were working it out. But then other women started coming into the picture. That created problems. Witchcraft came into the picture from his side. That created another problem. I wanted to work it out. I asked him to go to anger classes, anger management classes. He did. I challenged him, and I'm going to talk about ways the challenges that I did, but I challenged him. It didn't matter if I was scared, he would never know it. I did what I could to make him afraid of trying anything. And I'll talk about that throughout this YouTube channel. This is not a forever YouTube channel. This YouTube channel is just to help those who are here in this point, and it allows me to vent because I don't have many people to tell this to, but I do have a testimony of survival, and surviving with my head held high, pushing past the depression. I mean, there's a lot to be said, and there is a way to survive it God's way until that door opens and you can leave, unless the person wants to change. Now, with my husband, part of the reason I stayed also is because he was putting forth effort to change. He went to the anger management classes. He practiced what he learned. He would come back and apologize and really put forth an effort. We went from me dealing with verbal abuse every day to the point I would take my son and go, to it what do you call it, popping up just once every so often. So what's making me do this then? If it's just once every so often, why am I doing this first video? Because it just happened again, and I'm tired. I don't want a verbally abusive relationship. I'm glad that it has improved. I'm glad for the things that I've learned. I'm glad that, I survived those first few years of marriage. I'm glad that God gave me tips because I was asking him to save the marriage. It wasn't because I believe God wanted me to be there. No, absolutely not. I was saying, God, I want to try for the sake of my children. I want to try. And I want an avenue to get them away from him as much as possible. God provided those avenues. I need one more avenue. And I need them further away from him even more. I see that now. And that's what I'm going to start praying for. But I've also said to my husband, and I've said to my children, Mom and Dad may have to walk away from each other. My husband just flat out said divorce. But I try not to speak those kind of words into the relationship, to the marriage, because, well, that's another time for another day. I'm sorry. I didn't plan this video. So I apologize for not being very organized. I just want to share my story and encourage other women not to stay in that kind of relationship. If you have faith in God and you believe in God to save your marriage, then I also want to share some tips that I have used that brought me from horrible, horrible days to, it doesn't happen quite that often anymore. And today I woke up saying, Keitha, don't give up on your marriage, which was so interesting. I woke up. I looked at my house. It was a mess again. My husband was on his cell phone, like he always is, all day long, doing nothing. And I looked around and I said, I don't think I want this anymore. You know, my husband go his own separate way. I take my kids and I teach them the right things to do. And I had been working all night long, so I was exhausted. And he woke me up asking me about his charger for his phone. It was just crazy stuff. He wouldn't feed the kids this morning. So it was just, I didn't want to go through all of that. And I was saying to myself, I don't want to do this. And it came to me, the devotion that I did with my children, because we're doing the 25 days of Christmas this year, our first year. And it was don't turn the dial, or don't turn the station, or something like that. It was related to the radio. The whole idea was don't give up. God can handle it. Don't give up. And I'm sitting there thinking about it, like I'm talking it out with you now, and I'm thinking about where my marriage was and where it is, and how even though I'm not happy with it, it is far better than what it was, and I see potential for it to get even better. And then these hiccups happen. Yeah, I guess I'm going to call them hiccups. These hiccups happen. And I'm like, I'm tired of the hiccups. I'm tired. I'm just tired. I don't want this video to go too long. So I'm going to go ahead and share my first tip for those who are interested. Don't ever, when you are in a verbal abusive relationship, don't ever make yourself look afraid. Even if you're afraid deep down inside, don't show it. That's something I learned with my husband. I learned that he fed off of fear and pain that he caused with verbal abuse. One time he was being verbally abusive and I had just had enough. It had been days and days and days. And I just started crying. And I screamed at him to leave me alone. He left me alone. After he said a few more verbally abusive things. And then he went on about his day all happy. He was happy. Having just a wonderful day. Started talking to me like he hadn't done anything wrong. Like it was no problem. First time it happened, I was like, okay, we made it past this battle. But then it would be a few more times and I started realizing, if I scream back at him, if I cry, he's satisfied. I have fed him. So what did I do? I stopped crying. If I cried, I was by myself and with the Lord. I started praying to God for help not to scream at him, or yell back at him, or counterattack when he verbally abuses me. That was super, super hard. It was so hard because I would counterattack and yell back and scream back and tell him to leave me alone. And I would pull out, I would counterattack everything he said, because sometimes he would do it in front of the kids. And I didn't want the kids thinking that what he was saying was true, number one, and that his behavior was okay. So I would do all of those kind of things to defend myself and put it out there in front of my kids. This is not right. This is not what God teaches. This is not what God teaches. I mean, they know their father is a rev. And this is another thing too. The house of God, the family of God needs to talk about these things, because this is happening right here in the church. There are women suffering right now, right here in the church. There are children growing up seeing their preacher daddy do this to their mother. Oh no. I would go off on my husband when he verbally abused me. I did that. All under, I'm protecting myself, I'm defending myself, and I'm showing my kids this is not the way to be done. But God, I realized when I saw this, I said, God, help me not to do it. Help me to fight this with you. That was the key. That was a major turning point for me. When I decided I was not going to fight this with myself, by myself, I was going to fight this with God. So, I didn't cry for him anymore. Even today, I cried. He never saw it. So when I left the house to go to work, I'm doing this before I go to work. I'm sitting in a parking lot. He was still his semi-grumpy self. Wouldn't talk to me. Still works. So he hasn't been fed. So the other thing I pray is I pray to God not to yell and scream back. No matter how hard it was. Because he said a lot of character damaging things. He used those words like a knife. And I'm telling you, it pierces and it hurts. I remember the first time I tried it. I sat there and I let him scream at me. And I sat still. I didn't move. He screamed in my face. I sat still. And I didn't move. And he said something else. I don't remember what it was. I remember looking at him and saying, but you're wrong. That's it. Just call, but you're wrong. He was furious. He ran off. He stormed off to where I don't remember to this day. But I remember bowing my head to pray. And a few minutes later, he did something that I don't remember up to that point him ever doing. He came back and he apologized to me. I act like I didn't hear him. And I was looking for my phone to press record. I have a lot of recordings of his confessions. I have a lot of recordings. And I might mask his voice because people know him. You maybe listen to this and know him and know me. That's why I'm not showing my face. But this needs to be said. And matter of fact, I'm going to find those recordings. And I am going to try to learn how to mask voice. I'm going to mask because I'm going to let you listen to the things that he said to me. But he came this time and he apologized. And he said, I don't know what's wrong with me. He said, but I know where I get it from. And he starts to tell me about the verbal abuse that he witnessed as a child. And then he said this to me. But keep praying for me. Now, I never told him I was praying for him. I'll tell you. I mean... Oh, God had to help me with that. God had to help me. I'm laughing because the way he treated me, what on earth would make you think that I'm praying for you? But, I had been praying for him and been praying for myself because whatever I needed to change in myself to save my marriage, then that needed to be changed in me. That's my tip for today. Even if you are scared, they never need to know it. I'm assuming that your verbal abuser is a man, but your verbal abuser can be a woman. I mean, women do this to men, just like men do this to women. Don't give them the satisfaction of seeing you hurt or scared. Because the truth of the matter is, when they're in that moment of being verbally abusive, they don't care. They do not care that they hurt you. They do not care that you're sad. They do not care about the damage they've caused you. They do not care. They're in a very selfish moment. And all of it is not a mental illness. Some of it is demonic, and some of it is just downright selfishness. A person can be selfish And they care nothing about themselves, and they just want what they want when they want it, and they want everything to be controlled, and they're not happy unless they're in control, or sometimes they're not happy unless they're in control and the one or ones they are controlling are miserable. Will you decide that you're not going to allow their behavior to control how you behave? You now have the upper hand. My videos, I'm going to close out this one. I don't want them to be long. My videos are going to be short, but and they're not condoning verbal abuse, and I'm never saying stay in that situation. Never, ever, ever. I have been in and around dysfunctional families my entire life. And I have seen divorce, and I have seen it very painful, and I have seen it destroy children's lives. If my husband and I were just together, we had no children, I probably would have said adios amigo, or, separation, get some time apart. I would have done it far differently than I did now. But the pain is too real. And one of those times he walked out, my daughter thought he was never coming back, and she broke down. So there were a lot of wake-up calls here where I knew, one, I need divine intervention, and two, I have to change me. I cannot change him, but I have to change how I am going to respond to the situation. And that's often hard for a person to understand, because they're like, well, wait a minute, why am I having to change? He's the one that's doing wrong, or she's the one that's wrong. They're the ones in error. And that's absolutely true. They surely are. But you will see how much power you obtain when you take control of the situation by your behavior, even if it means you have to leave. Hey, if you got to leave, do what you got to do. Get out. My prayer was, God, save my marriage. I don't want my children to have the pain of divorce. So, yeah. I may not always leave the comment section open, but for this video, I will. Some things get really touchy, and I don't want any condescending comments. I just want to share and talk about this, because I know if there are other women going through this, and I know there's women going through this that don't have the money to get out. You want out. I know the women out there that are praying for out, and they don't see an out. Yeah, I'm going to talk about that too. And but I'm going to leave it open for this video. And let me know if you want to hear some more of what I have to say about my story. This is my testimony of what I did and what I'm doing. You have a blessed day.